Thursday inakuwa siku ya clinic, relationship clinic. We'll be getting into that shortly. Eden Tea, finest garden tea. If you have not had your cup of Gashai this morning, my friend, you need to take some Gashai. Eden Tea, lemon Eden Tea, ginger Eden Tea, purple Eden Tea, green Eden Tea Premium. For green tea lovers, if you haven't tried Eden Green Tea, you need to check it out. It's available locally at the supermarkets, affordable prices, very, very lovely, very refreshing. The richness in the taste, in the color, in the aroma is out of this world. Eden Tea is reminding you and I in this season, let's continue working together to keep coronavirus at bay. How do we do that? Wash your hands with soap and running water. Put on your face masks, my friend. Maintain social distancing. You know, we are seeing there's a possibility of some counties being locked up because of what's going on with the numbers rising. And so let's continue to be vigilant. And as we remain vigilant, na kabaridi kameanza kuingia, the best time to have Eden Tea, the finest garden tea. Make your way to the supermarkets today. Grab some Eden Tea for yourself. Try it out, and I know you will like it because it truly is the finest garden tea. Right now, let's take a look at the local dailies. What are some of the key stories that are making headlines today? We begin by taking a look at Daily Nation. Big story, Raila gain, Ruto loss. It says voting patterns in the past two presidential elections, President Kenyatta and Deputy William Ruto relied on Mount Kenya region and Rift Valley blocks to beat Mr. Odinga. It continues to say the widening rift between leaders representing the eastern and western slopes could hurt Ruto more than Raila, whose voter strongholds remain largely the same. That's the big story there. Also, schools burst at the seams after Form 1 intake is another story carried on the front page of the Daily Nation. Tukiingia Kundani on matters school, Form 1, joy as twins join same schools. There's a picture here of 6 children, 3 pairs of twins. You can read the amazing story. Some of them had chosen different institutions, but fate had other plans because they've been called to the same schools. That's on page 3. Take a look at that. On matters politics, things are getting interesting. Kalonzo says, I'd rather retire than back Raila. Former VP also dismisses reports President Kenyatta pledged to endorse one of the NASA leaders in 2022. You can check that out on matters politics. There's quite a bit IEBC and other stories in there. You can take a look at that. Going over to some of the center pages, there's a farewell here. Farewell to a captain of industry. It's all about the late Dr. Chris Kirubi. You can check out that as well. What else is making headlines in the local dailies today? Check out the opinion pages. There's quite a number of articles there. The editorial cartoon about the Eurobond 4. Take a look at that as well. And then county news. County leaders tell Caronay to keep off Maseno dispute. It says disputed town is a key source of revenue and also hosts a university. And so you need to take a look at that. Also, couple accuses nanny of trafficking their baby. This is from Uasin Gishu. You can take a look at that story. The pullout today is property. Thursdays, we have property. What will your guests say? It's all about factors to bear in mind as you furnish your space or your bedroom. Take a look at that. Pull out property. What else is in here today? Going over to the back pages. From around the world, new ICC prosecutor takes on daunting job. Key countries have refused to join the International Tribunal. You can take a look at that. There's something about the American president. And in business, lender projects economy to grow by 5.3% this year. When we jump all the way to the back pages where we find sports, what can we find there today? Let me see. Let me get there and tell you. Who will blink fast? It's all about the Olympic game trials. Wild beating athletes collide in Nairobi for our Sport In Team Kenya. Question is, who will blink first? On matters soccer, KCB back on top. Gor are also in hot pursuit. We have quite a bit on the UEFA Euro 2020. Denmark bank on emotional crowd for fancied Belgium visit. And then right at the back page of the Daily Nation today, let me see what I can find for you there. Principals stare at space. Principals stare at space nightmare as 1 million students join Form 1. It's all about education. Those are key stories you will find in the local dailies today. Grab a copy, keep yourself informed on what's happening both locally and also internationally. Relationship clinic coming up shortly this month. We are focusing on the seasons of marriage, and today we talk about the autumn season. What is that all about? Stick with me. You'll get to know shortly. Leo ni siku ya clinic, my friend. Relationship clinic, kama kawaida bench nimesafisha, nimeiweka hapo nje. Kwanza today I'm feeling so nice. Hata bench nimetandika kitambaa. Like my mom used to do back in the day. All the sofa sets had kitambaa. So bench nimeweka kitambaa even as we get into our discussion for today. This month we are talking about the seasons of marriage. Today we focus on what is known as the autumn or fall season in marriage. Two amazing guests with me today. We have Joy Rugano, who is a counseling psychologist. Joy, how are you doing?
I'm very fine, Pastor.
Karibu sana, it's good to have you.
Lovely, good to be here.
I feel joyous just talking to you.
Yes, the joy of the Lord radiates.
That's nice. Karibu sana. We also have Wanjugu Gishuru, who's a transformational coach. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine this morning. How are you?
I'm very fine. I am about to be transformed. I've got joy and I've got a transformational coach. I'm set for life. Ladies, karibuni sana. So this month, we have been looking at the different seasons in marriage, and today we focus on what people call the autumn or fall season. What is this season for somebody who may never have interacted with the 4 seasons of marriage? When somebody talks about the fall or the autumn season of marriage, Joy, what are we talking about here?
Okay, the autumn season normally falls summer in a normal calendar where there is winter.
Mm-hmm.
During this time, initially, the place looks so good. There are all kind of different colors on the leaves. There is orange, there is green, there is yellow, there is burgundy. Everything is looking so good.
Mm-hmm.
But lo and behold, then weeds follow. And those weeds that if you are small, they can carry you.
Yes.
And during that time, all the leaves fall away.
Uh-huh.
And the tree is left bare. So in this season of marriage, everything is bare. In fact, I would call it the reality stage.
Ah.
That's when somebody is laid bare completely.
Okay.
And you can see, this is the man I married. This is the wife I married. That's the season we are talking about this morning, Pastor.
Great. I like that season because, Wanjugu, I usually tell people who are dating and courting, when they're so in love and they say love is blind. And I say, yes, love is blind, but marriage gets you healed and you begin to see. And so this is what this season is all about. What are some when we talk about, the relationship is now laid bare, you begin to realize this is the kind of man or this is the kind of woman I married. What are some things that begin to come to the surface?
Yeah. What some of the things that come to the surface are, the ugly things that you've been trying to hide. Because, in the summertime,
yeah,
trying to date, what you do is you put your best foot forward. And the reason is because you are thinking, if I project the best sides of me,
mm-hmm.
then I'm going to be loved and accepted. But you see, that cannot be sustainable because we cannot fake for too long, or you cannot, pretend something and hide the other things. Because marriage, as you know, the purpose of marriage is all about cleaving, which is about intimacy. Mm-hmm. And intimacy is all about vulnerability. Yani all your sides are bare. So what is happening is that the other side, especially because of the pressure of marriage, you have to live with this person. You have to see each other every day. So what's going to happen is your flaws start, showing up. as as our guest is saying, that there's going to be some breeze that's coming. So all of a sudden you're like, wait, I'm feeling a bit of chills. I'm not as happy as I was. There's something that's coming. It's like you can just sense the ball will drop. And so the tension starts. There's a bit of tension. There's a bit of disagreement that's coming up. All of a sudden you're wondering, is this the same person I knew? Is this another side? You're beginning to dig deeper, and then what's happening is that you're becoming more bare with one another. So even the flaws start showing.
Wow.
So that's what I would say, versus the autumn season.
Okay. I'm just wondering, Joy, is this the point where some people begin to second guess themselves and wonder, did I marry the right person really? And what are some main emotions that people go through in this season of marriage?
You're very spot on, Pastor. At this stage, you start wondering, why did I even ever get married? And as Wanjugu was saying, the differences just become magnified. Maybe there's something I saw in my spouse and I said, this is just going to pass. But during this season, it just becomes out of place. And I would say, like, let's say, for example, you meet this guy who doesn't want you to talk to anybody. You meet this guy who is taking you everywhere. And you feel, hey, this guy loves me so much.
Yes.
And then you enter into marriage and you are like, come on, it's controlling. And so this becomes so magnified. And so all those, the jittery feelings, I think they were covered in summer, they all fade. They start fading to fade, and you are like, what did I see in my spouse? Well, even that image of Prince Charming, that illusion that you had with my Prince Charming, you start wondering, where did I see the charm? And because of these differences and all these feelings, you start feeling afraid, you are fearful, whether this is the person I knew or it's somebody else. You are sad, you are confused, you are frustrated. I would say the negative emotions are the ones that are now being experienced by the couple. You are apprehension, you are dejected, you are rejected, name it. All that which doesn't really bring the dopamine feeling, that pleasure feeling in us.
Yeah.
Experience it at this stage.
Whoa, Wanjugu, is this the point where people say, I've actually met people who separated and they say, I realized I did not marry the right person. Would you say this is a season where a good number of marriages break down and people just call it quits, everybody deciding to go their way?
I don't think this is it. I think if I'm preempting myself, I think winter is the time that people really quit.
Okay.
But I usually say, what's that saying? Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah. Where
there's smoke, there's... So what happens in the autumn, I will say, is the smoke, which will lead to the fire, which is the... Because what's happening is most people, instead of facing, as Joy is saying, instead of facing the negative emotions, the reality that's creeping in, facing and navigating through it, most people try to go back to how it was. So you're more in denial. So what you're doing is you're trying to say, no, it's just a phase. They're not okay, or let me just pretend. So you're trying to cover up, or you're trying to change that person to go back to what you thought they were. And this is where the blame game is happening. As Joy was saying, I thought you were Prince Charming. How all of a sudden you're not doing what you were doing before, And so what is happening is even your expectations you had about this person are being challenged. And whether those expectations were real, or they were assumed, or they were very, magnified, these days we expect relationships to be all romance because of what we watch in a movie.
Yes.
So we have this expectation that, hey, when we get married, for the newbies, you'll be carried off, from the door to the bedroom. You'll be whisked up, breakfast in the morning, all those things. And now, no, things are not happening like that. You're starting to see that this person actually has anger issues. Their mess becomes coming up in the surface. Now, instead of people dealing with it, they try to hide it or they try to ignore it. So this is not that time yet. I would say winter is a time that people quit because now it gets too tough and you feel like you can't go back to where you guys started.
Okay.
You can't go back to a nice place.
I'm just wondering, what are some of the main mistakes that couples make in this season? You know, now that all these things have begun to crop up and you're realizing, hey, kumbe hata kuna vitu zingine anaweza kufanya. The way she looks like an angel out there, yeah, kumbe at home she's like this. What mistakes do couples make in this season, Joy?
The greatest mistake, and Wanjugu has alluded to it, is when you decide, I'm not going to do anything about it.
Oh.
If you decide, I'm starting to feel these negative emotions, these things are not the way they have been, and it's given a blind eye, then as Wanjugu said, things can go to winter. So doing nothing is not the thing to do. Something has to be done. Another thing is blaming. Oh, we are the way we are because of you. And you know, there is no perfect person in this world. So I have my flaws. My husband has his flaws. And the blaming game here will not help. The blaming game will just make the other spouse more annoyed, and the differences will continue bigger and bigger. The gap will just get wider and wider and wider.
Okay.
And also that disengagement. I have nothing, you know, like you are two people in the same house, but living in two different worlds. You are doing your own thing, I'm doing my own thing, and we are not doing anything about it. So for me, the greatest mistake is taking no action. Marriage will sort itself. Nature will take its course. And we know if we leave it like that, we'll end up in the red.
Wow. I'm just wondering, Wanjugu, is this a point where a lot of communication needs to take place, and communication that is honest and is very deliberate?
Exactly. This is the time. And you know what? Let me say this, that seasons are there to reveal something and to teach us something.
Yeah.
So if you make use of the autumn season, you can actually go back to spring or summer. But if you don't make it, you will end up in winter. As Joy is saying, you will just allow the nature, you know, course of nature. You just think, things will go back to the way it is. Let me just, you know, turn a blind eye or try to pretend that this phase will go. So what's happening is there's a lot of fear at this level because, you know, things are changing. Of course, you know, most of us respond to change differently.
Yeah.
And some of these changes might not even be the fault of the individuals. You know, I know of marriages that they started and then all of a sudden they were caught with some big issues to deal with as early as even the first year. Maybe loss, you know, maybe loss of a child, loss of a job, maybe one of the spouses, or something just happens that causes a big change.
Yeah.
So what will happen is in this, they both have to make a decision that they are going to be having authentic and honest conversations. You have to have authentic and honest conversations because this is a time where you're feeling one of or the other spouses might be feeling neglected. They might start feeling those feelings of abandonment. And so if you're not going to communicate to your spouse, they might think you're fine. You know, if now, this is also the time to start setting up healthy boundaries, especially if you did not do that time. Because, for example, maybe this is a man who, for him, it is normal for him to speak to you the way he speaks to you, to the wife, because that is what he's, and he's growing up. This is how he thinks women should be treated. And so, you remember, we always go back to our default setting, our core beliefs, which is in us. So even this man may not even know. So he'll use maybe certain words that will cause you to feel the pain. And if going to be honest with him and communicate and say, you know, when you do ABCD, this is how it makes me feel, or this is what, you know, you're communicating, and I would like you to do ABCD. And of course, those are very uncomfortable conversations, especially in the African setting. Hey, don't talk about deep conversations or, kind of touchy-feely. But those are the conversations that need to be dealt with, like, in this stage. Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure that this season is not all negative. I'm sure there are some positive things that also come forth in this season, and we'll get to talk about those shortly. Remember, you are tuned in to the Relationship Clinic. Seasons of marriage, we are looking at the autumn season. If you have any questions for us, 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786 316 316. Seasons of marriage, we are looking at the autumn season, hanging out with Joy Rugano, counseling psychologist, and Wanjugu Gishuru, who is a transformational coach. Stella here says, lovely to hear Joy on Jam 316. May the Lord bless her ministry. My fans ndio hao wanajitokeza. And we have a couple of questions coming in. We'll get to them shortly. But even as I alluded earlier, it's not all negative. There must be some positive things, because there's one here from Nyambura. Nyambura says, autumn is not only negative. Discussed that this getting to lay ourselves bare also exposes the strengths, resilience, working together despite differences. So what are some positives of this season, Joy?
Yeah, I agree with what our listener has said.
Mm-hmm.
We are all different, and in marriage, we tend to marry the person who is quite opposite from us.
Yeah.
If I'm very talkative, more often than not, my husband will be quiet, and the vice versa.
Yes.
So it's also making use of these differences. Maybe you are the one who is outgoing, I'm the quiet one. You are the go-getter. There are people who are risk takers.
Mm-hmm.
And me, I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. So it's really these differences, balancing the marriage and balancing the home. And also, since it's a time that we are bare to each other,
Yeah.
the good thing also that can come out of it, Pastor, is to realize we are drifting apart. What can we do? Seeking for help, I would say, is also a good thing that can come out of this season.
Mm-hmm.
And seeking for help can be, go and see your best couple. If you are in touch with them, go and see your pastor, go and see a therapist. So all is not lost. Good things can come out of it. Enhance each another's strengths. And I realize as human beings, most of the time, we tend to focus on the negative. I know that that's the way we are wired. But if we can focus on the good, I normally, everybody has a good something in them. And we didn't get attracted to our husbands because we saw all negative things. So the good that we saw in our spouse when we were dating is still there, buried somewhere. And we can unearth it by the way we behave to each other.
I like that.
So something good can come out of it.
Okay. There's a question here on Jugu from Mary in a faraway country. She's saying, I love the conversation. What if, while in this season, someone decides to even separate and move to another room altogether because they feel the bed is cold and they're better off sleeping alone somewhere else? How do you deal with a situation like that?
Wow, interesting question. I think this is what I really believe about autumn. What it reveals is each individual's characters, and more so how they deal with seasons of uncertainty and seasons of failure. So what's happening is during this season, whether it's the man or the woman, because of what is happening in the autumn season, there's that disconnect that is forming, and then there's that kind of so the other person feel like I can't connect with you. So there are people, depending on how you've grown up, how you deal with failure is instead of facing it, you actually retreat.
Yeah.
And so you'll find that maybe you're actually dealing with a spouse that for them, they're like, okay, I'm being hurt. I feel like this person, and these are expectations. And that's why communication is important. So they will be able to do is they will conclude that this person I'm not feeling connected to them because they don't like me anymore, or I'm already failing as a spouse, I'm already failing as a man. And why I'm saying a man is because it's usually the men who will move out and stay in the other room. So what will happen is because he's retreating, and that is how he's coping with either failure or the gap. So what I will do is, for the other spouse, do not respond to the emotions, because that's what is going to happen in the autumn season. We usually make decisions based on feeling. Emotions are just there to show us what is underneath. Emotions are alarm signs. So if you're feeling fearful, because the first thing you'll feel is fearful, you're feeling like this spouse doesn't like me anymore, is already quitting. So don't rely on working on that fear. Don't rely on making decisions based on that fear. Actually, I would say, how about trying to bridge the gap? And this is why you use a lot of, because most spouses are like, even them, they don't talk to me, even me, I don't want to talk to them. And so what is happening, there's this gap forming. You have to be the bigger person and say, I'm going to bridge the gap. Because remember, marriage is about intimacy.
Yes. And
intimacy is formed with vulnerability. So this person has to feel, even if they're hard to love at this time, they have to be assured that I'm not going anywhere. I know we are not, thinking, but I'm here to stay. And I know we can sort this thing out. And so I think that assurance will help that person who's retreating to come back and feel safe enough to open up, even the parts that they're struggling with. And they can actually be open up and brave enough to share what is going on. So remember that we all respond to change differently. That's number one. And so just understand this is how this person is responding. Yeah.
Okay. Earlier on, we talked about this being a season where sometimes you may begin to ask yourself, did I really marry the right person? And so, Joy, there's a question here that says, what if your spouse sees you as a mistake but does not tell you? Until things get out of hand, then he tells you. Yet all through, you knew that you are doing your best. Arguments and misunderstandings and mistrust begin from there. What would you say about that?
I would say that nothing happens just like that. There must have been signs which either the person did not read carefully or just maybe let it pass.
Yeah.
I would say those signs were ignored, unless somebody is a very good actor. You are very good out there or in the home, but something must be happening for you to notice this is not the man or this is not the wife I married. Maybe they are not talking to you as they used to. Every time is bashing. They are not providing as they used to. And you can just tell the environment is bad. So I would say it may happen, but I would say it can be quite uncommon for somebody just to wake up and tell you you are a mistake. And it can be very, very painful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Somebody tells you you are a mistake, and then you try to go back to the time you are quoting. You can't even sleep without, hello, how are you? How was your day? Good night, love you. Mwah. And now you are a mistake. And you start wondering, when did I become a mistake?
Yeah.
After you've gone through the shock of being this mistake, and some of these things are harder to say than to do. It's just to take a good break, take a breather, reflect, and in a nice way. And I say it's difficult, Pastor. Communication.
Yes.
Ask the other spouse, what do you mean by saying I am a mistake? Then you go back and review what has been happening. And as a counselor, I normally say, if you are a mistake, then let us go back to the time when you started seeing these changes in your marriage.
Yeah.
At that particular time, what happened? And if you go back to the root, somehow you are able to sort out the things that are going on in your marriage. But if you just say, oh, I was a mistake now, let me just try and be the correct person. I don't even know how you are going to be this correct person if you don't know the mistakes that you have been doing. So it's challenging. And I'll find it difficult just somebody to wake up one morning and tell me I'm a mistake and I haven't been seeing these signs. Either I've been seeing the signs and I'm ignoring them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like we have quite a number of questions today. This one says, Pastor James, we seem to have lost our way in that fast, stormy season Everything was and still is always my fault. My attempt to cut down on demeaning and cutting words were dismissed as my fear to hear the truth. When I suggested help from counseling, I was told I'm the one with the problem, so I should fix myself. I feel like I'm in a hole that's getting deeper and I don't know how to dig myself out. This is from the husband, not from the wife. Wanjogo, this one I'm throwing to you. Yeah, he's one. What does he do? You know, it seems like nothing he does is right. He is always the one who's at fault. It's like there's no room for discussion here.
First of all, let me just tell him I'm so sorry. I'm sorry about that. That must be so hard to work in a marriage where you seem to be the one who wants to make things work and the other person. So actually, when I was hearing that question or that statement, what came to mind is this person. I know right now the man is just wondering, how do I even get through to this lady? And remember, the reason acting the way she's acting is because she's thinking that she's so right. And remember, every action is being preceded by a core belief. I always say this, and it almost looks like a cliche.
Yeah.
There must be a reason thinking that. There must be, maybe it's how she grew up and how she saw men are supposed to do. This is what her husband is supposed to do. And she that one thing that he doesn't do, and according to her, that changes everything. And she's thinking, if only he acts like this, if only he becomes this, then us will be fine. And so she's refusing to see her own role because that is just how she has been. And you see, the thing about marriage is there for holiness. And what will happen is your flaws will come out, each other's flaws will come out, and she's just not going to deal with her flaws. This is what I would suggest, because she doesn't want to see a counselor. I would suggest, how about the man looking for someone she trusts and respects? It could even be an auntie, it could be maybe someone, a relative, an older relative. There has to be a third party, I think, in this situation, because the two are not really communicating. They are not on the same page. They're not agreeing. So she reaches out to someone she respects and someone she would listen to. That is what I would suggest.
Sometimes I
if
wonder.
That person agrees to be.
Sometimes I wonder, Wanjogu and Joy, in a situation like this, where somebody doesn't want to talk, somebody sees themselves as no mistake is from my side, everything is on your side. I keep wondering, are you trying to push this guy to just walk out so that maybe you're going to mpango zingine mahali? Are you like Job's wife thinking, so you just curse God and die so I can move with my own life? Because I don't see how you don't want to talk and you don't want to resolve issues, so unataka? Are you trying to give me an excuse to move out so that you say, unaona alienda, so wacha mimi niendelee na maisha yangu? I don't know what you think, Joy.
I think it's a very difficult position, and I really empathize with this gentleman because none of us is perfect.
Yeah.
And the moment we start saying, I am okay, I don't have a problem, you are the problem, everything like that, I believe this lady has issues, and because she's perfect, she may not realize she has issues, and helping her, as the husband has, or the friend has said, she doesn't want to see the counselor, she doesn't want to, I'm fine the way I am. And how do we get her to talk? How do we get her to see the mistakes that she has? And sometimes in this fall season, Pastor, these issues are not addressed. Then you go to winter, and before you know, the marriage has died.
Yeah.
So, like Wanjogu, she needs to talk to somebody because the husband cannot get through to her. And the big question now, who is this somebody? Do they go to church? Do they have a pastor? The pastor has spiritual authority. And sometimes, and when you summon your member, they can come and see you and nicely tackle this problem, because where he is, it's not a good place. You don't even feel like you want to come home.
Yeah,
you are being for everything. It's like you are being chased out of the door.
Exactly.
Or quick. Because you come home, there's no peace. You stay out with the boys, you come back, there's no peace. Nowadays, you don't like me. So it's a difficult position.
Yes.
But I would say everything, let's not forget there is prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Pray about it. Prayer changes things. And look for somebody to talk to her.
Yes.
And as Ojugu has said, you can look for a relative whom she respects. And I believe a pastor or a father, wherever you go to church, your spiritual father.
You know, Mswahili akasema akufukuzaye hakuambii toka. Sometimes it's just the actions. In fact, there's one gentleman who's saying what this man is going through is exactly what they went through. And when I said maybe this person is just looking for an opportunity for you to walk out so that they can say, you see, he's walked out. He's saying that's exactly what happened to him. That is just a sad story. As we wrap up, because our time is almost up, there's something you mentioned, Joy, which I think is very important. You know, during this season of autumn, what you began there, you know, the leaves that were colorful and the flowers that were bright are falling off.
Yeah.
The tree remains bare in preparation for the next season, which is winter. Because these leaves cannot survive in winter. And in winter, we will need a lot of energy. So let's conserve our energy now because there's another season coming. And I'm just wondering, how does that play out in marriage as well? Because I believe every season has a focus. So, Wanjogu, for this season in marriage, what should the couples be focusing on? Because there's another season waiting.
Wow. You know, I am I'm still on the other story, but it's all right. I want to be the villain in the story or be trying to be, because that lady also, it seems that she's creating walls. Anyone who's trying to push someone away, they think that they're doing themselves a service, because you can actually see probably even how they lived their lives, where they came from. People hurt them. So what they did is they create walls. When they feel like someone is failing them, someone is doing something they don't want, they put up walls. And unfortunately, you can't do much with walls. That's why people end up going away. And so I'm just really praying for the lady that she actually brings her walls down, because marriage is not a place for walls if she doesn't want to keep away this man. So to go back to the question about the autumn season, I really believe there are times I believe that God allows marriages to go through tough seasons. So yes, that there might go to winter, but it doesn't have to be like that. There are some you can go back. Actually, if you use the fall season well, you go back to spring or summer. But there are some marriages that will go straight to winter. And it's because, and there could be issues that they didn't even anticipate, as I said, maybe loss or something really tough comes into the marriage. So this is what I will say. Focus on God, because, you know, a marriage of 3 cords will stand, but a marriage of 2 people will not. If you have a 3 cords, it cannot be shaken, and that means that Jesus is at the center. And why are we calling Jesus at the center? Because Jesus is the epitome of love. Jesus is the epitome of love. This is a season where it is very easy for you to look at yourself and you try self-preservation. So I'm trying to preserve I'm trying to protect myself. So most people in marriage, I'm like, I want to try to protect my dignity. This person looks like they're taking it away. I'm trying to protect who I was. I'm being hurt and I'm being wounded and I don't want that anymore. And the other person is doing the same. Because in autumn, you're experiencing really bad emotions, hurt, a sense of neglect. So you want to self-preserve. But I will say, instead of self-preserve, think of how you preserve each other. Think of the other person. Invite Jesus in the mix. And I'm telling you, what would have seemed to destroy your marriage, God will actually use it to refine your marriage. So what we do is, because we are losing, but God is actually going to make it in such a way, is going to refine you. So you're going to come out better. So focus on Jesus. I think that is what I will say. Focus on Jesus. Rely on him. Rely on his love.
Great. Joy,
and don't think of...
Joy, I have got 1 more minute. What would you want to add to that?
What I would add is this. There is nothing that is beyond repair when we are trusting God. And with help, this couple do not have to go to winter. They can go back to spring. They can go back to summer.
Yes.
Learn how to communicate. I think we learn each other's love language. If I do something that you like, really you are not going to repulse me. And I would say, don't give up. Work on your marriage. It's not over. You don't have to go to winter. You can go back to feeling those nice jittery feelings.
Yes.
Leave it, the nature to take its course. You have jitters for somebody else. And that won't help you. It will just take you back to square one. Because when you leave one person, you go to the other. Those jitters, have them for your wife, have them for your husband. All is not lost when we are in the Lord.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you so much, Wanjugu. I wish we had more time to continue with this discussion, but unfortunately, my time is up. We definitely have to do this again. I love what Wanjugu said. This is a season for preservation. Just like the trees, they lose their leaves to preserve. Preserve one another. Not just yourself. Preserve your spouse, preserve yourself, because then you can go back to the spring season and to the summer season. I'm out of time for today. Have yourselves a lovely day. God willing, we'll hook up again next week on another great discussion on the Relationship Clinic.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.